Hey,
Moo.
welcome. Moo. Oh, I thought you were booing. Boo.
No.
Oh,
I'm
okay. Booing the moo?
I would never boo you, Tanner.
Don't boo the moo. Don't boo the moo. That's our new slogan.
It's like that phrase, don't yuck on my yum. Don't
What
boo on
the
my
hell?
moo, dude.
What does that mean?
Like if I'm having a good time, don't rain on my parade, you know?
Don't yuck on my yum?
Yeah.
Is that like a Gen Z term or is that an old term?
Oh God, I don't know where that came from. It's not mine. It came from somewhere else and it lodged its way into my brain.
It sounds dirty to me. Welcome to Milking the Franchise, the Cash Cow Chronicles.
That sounds dirty to me.
It's so dirty. Just
so
you wait.
Dirty.
The podcast where we watch every movie in a franchise and we talk about it and we watch other versions of IP like video games or play video games, TV shows and otherwise. And generally talk about how franchises are milked to death. Is that right?
That's about right. Yeah. And right now we're working our way through the Highlander film franchise. About a immortal Scotsman and his adventures through time.
The Highlander, yes. From the Highlands of Scotland.
Not the lowlands, not the medium height lands. The high ones.
Seems to be a lot of immortals from the same little like borough or whatever, little village.
A good number of them. Yes,
yeah.
I know what you mean.
What's in the water in Portmore Loch? That's what I want to know.
I don't know.
Portmore Loch. More on Bonnie Portmore later, of course. Well, welcome, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing good, Tanner. It's a lovely week here. There was a big book festival at the one of the parks here this weekend, so I bought some Spanish kids books, and I'm going to try and read those.
Oh, I like that you're starting out with kids' books.
Yeah, I've got some Goosebumps books and some picture books. Yeah. You know,
what? Which Goosebumps?
Something at my level of Espanol.
Well, to be fair, that's your reading level in English too, right?
Also true.
What Goosebumps book is it? Like one of the classic old ones in Spanish?
Yes. Let's see. The one I'm working on right now is called Sangre del Monstruo. So the blood of the monster.
Okay.
It's one of the original ones. I think it's one of the first 10 or 15 that he wrote.
Nice.
So,
I probably read it then. I think I read like the first 30 of them. I must have. Oh, Monster Blood. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Sounds fun. I just heard that they're coming out with new Goosebumps.
That's
books,
exciting.
Written by R.L. Stein himself. Okay. The author of Indiana Jones and what was that book that you read?
Island of disappointing books. That was not a great book. Not a great read. This one's been pretty good. How have you been this week, Tanner?
I've been pretty good. Let's see. Just playing Baldur's Gate, and working. That's about it. Yeah. Pretty uneventful.
Great.
Taking my girlfriend's cats to the vet at 7:30 in the morning. Fun stuff.
I mean, that's what life's about right there.
That's what it's all about. Watching bad movies.
Obviously watching Highlander.
Oh, speaking of bad movies.
Yes.
Highlander Endgame is what we watched today. It's the fourth movie in this franchise. And we're going to talk about it very soon. But before we do, we have a segment on our show. Yeah, we got to recap Highlander 3, The Sorcerer. On the show, we have these surveys, post-movie surveys that we've patented. And we ask you to fill them out and write some funny prompts and vote for things and follow along and play along with us. Again, this week I did post it to the Highlander Reddit, so shout out to you guys if you're listening. And I got 5 responses today. You know, a little bit less than last time, but some people, they came out real quick and answered these questions.
Little bit less than last time, but a lot more than the first 9 episodes of this show that we made. You know, so I'll take that.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's great. You know, it could just be that they don't care, or it could just be that they don't like Highlander 3 or don't know anything about it.
Could be.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it hasn't been removed by the mods, so that's a good sign. I'll take that as a win.
Absolutely.
Anyways, let's get into it. Highlander 3, the Sorcerer, also known as Highlander, the Final Dimension.
I'm excited to see what the Reddit people said about their Final Dimension question. Like, why is it called this?
And I've been going into these blind. Like I don't like to read them ahead of time, so I want to be surprised. I want to laugh. All right, first question. Favorite quickening? We got a tie between the final fight with Kane and Nakano getting his head chopped off and talking afterwards. Favorite sorcerer ability? The winner was shape shifting into a bird / other people, but a close second, becoming a bridge.
Excellent.
I feel
sure. Like the CGI on the bird must have pushed that one over the edge. That bird was so funny.
I mean, it's pretty cool.
Made out of like hot lava. Yeah.
Yeah. So was he actually the bridge? I was thinking about this after I wrote it. Or was it just like an illusion of a bridge?
Oh, did he like cast a bridge illusion? Is that your new working theory?
That's what I was wondering.
That would honestly make more sense. I like it more that he became the bridge and then Highlander like ran across him before he transformed.
If you turn up the volume when he's running on the bridge, you can hear like. All right. Favorite Highlander movie trope? The winner here, we've got having sex with a new blonde girl every time.
Oh, this
people love
I bet those
their
answers
sex.
Did come from Reddit.
Hey, Endgame did a whole new thing. They really turned it on their heads. This girl was brunette.
And it wasn't Connor getting with her. It was Duncan.
Oh, that's true. Oh, yeah. Connor likes the blondes. That's what it is. Some of these other choices here is, it had some 4 different things voted for. Driving Like a Maniac came in second. In every movie, or the first 3 movies, there's a scene where somebody's driving like a maniac. That's a close second there. Let's see. The next question here. Alex Johnson, so this was the girl in the movie, felt like a character thrown together to make the plot work. What was your favorite of her character traits? We got a tie between. She coincidentally looks just like somebody McLeod once loved from the Renaissance. And she has an extensive library of encyclopedia CD-ROM floppy disks.
Both great options. Important parts to her character, yeah.
Everything got a vote on this one. She bangs like a brunette. Yeah, pretty good. She knows all about those Scottish kilt patterns.
That's right. Tartans.
Yeah. Let's move on. What would you call Kane's haircut? So we put a little picture in there. Can't tell you what it looks like here, but how would you describe it? Just it's like a bowl cut with a mullet on the back.
Yeah, it's like a bowl cut in front, mullet in the back. Yeah, it was
the party.
A great look. And the picture you found too was him shirtless with that awesome scorpion tattoo. He's like really in his elements at this point.
Yeah. All right, and some of our responses, we got an evil magician, the hanky panky.
Oh, I like that one.
The locked in a cave boredom project. Nice.
Okay.
Funny. Stylish.
Those ones are just adjectives.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Yeah. Skull fuck mullet. No, skull fuck skullet.
Skull fuck skullet. Yeah, that's a mouthful. Speaking of skull fuck.
Yeah, exactly. Good is the last one here. That's also, is that an adjective?
Great responses. Thanks, guys. Yeah. I think that is also an adjective.
I like the evil magician. Hanky Panky. That's a good one. He's got some funny eyes there. All right. Next question. Besides on top of a mountaintop or near a ruined castle, where would you practice your swordsmanship? This movie had a lot of just like a montage of him swinging his sword in various locations, like on the edge of a cliffside. Then our answers
Do you think
here.
That makes you better at using a sword, just swinging it around by yourself?
I think it's because it's very windy there by the water, so it's like you're cutting against the wind.
Or what if that's where wind came from? It was just immortals out swinging swords and they're like fans.
That'd be like giant fans.
Like giant fans, which is also from this franchise.
Chris, that is so good. I wish maybe in the next movie they'll include that all the wind on planet Earth comes from an immortal swinging swords.
Doing sword practice on a cliff. Yeah.
That's so good. So our answers here can't top that one, but the shores of Loch Shiel, rooftop, okay, on an island on holy ground with the old one's permission, okay. Inside holy ground, we got another one on holy ground.
I guess you can't get killed on holy ground, right? So it's a safe place to practice.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right next to Loch Ness, at the dojo.
Good.
And underwater.
What if they get attacked by an immortal fish?
Well, that's where all the waves come from too. Exactly. An immortal swinging their sword underwater. All the waves in the world.
Love it. I will say I filled this survey out, and right after I was finishing the movie we're watching today, and they had a scene with Duncan doing a training montage inside a giant shadowy warehouse. And I was like, that's a better answer than underwater. The shadowy warehouse is what I should have put. Yeah,
the shadowy warehouse. No, yours that answer is way funnier though. All right, this movie. I'm glad you like it. This movie has two different titles: The Sorcerer and The Final Dimension. The Sorcerer makes sense due to there being sorcery. What does the Final Dimension mean in context of Highlander 3? This person said this movie takes place in a different dimension than the one Highlander 2 takes place in. Okay, so they're referencing the fact that they abandoned all Highlander 2 references. And they're saying that this movie.
I like that answer, and it actually makes sense. I think I wrote "I have no idea" or something like that. But it doesn't explain why it's the final dimension.
Yeah. I don't know.
Right? Okay. Anyway.
Well, maybe they're saying, well, we're not going to switch dimensions ever again. Number 2 was a funny dimension switch.
Funny one-off. Okay, now we're back.
I've been longing for Highlander 2. Since after watching these last two, I kind of like it. All right. We'll talk about that later, though. The next answer here, I always took it to mean Connor McLeod's final adventure / battle. Okay. So, just Connor's last dimension. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if they wrote this as like the third in a trilogy or something, I could see that working. But he does come back in the fourth one. So True. It's not his final. But I guess when this one came out, maybe. I don't know.
Well, they do that in movies all the time where it's
a better answer than I had. So thank you for chipping in. But yeah.
Magic. That's what
just magic.
Magic.
Excellent.
And then all these other people basically said what you said. No clue and never knew. I have no idea. No damn idea. And then literally nothing. The production company is Dimension Films.
That we did talk about that last week. That was
my answer.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess the first one makes sense that's supposed to take place in a different dimension. Yeah, I don't know.
I guess that would be an easy way to hand wave away all the shit that happened in the second one.
Yeah, it's like, oh, like
maybe that one makes sense.
Multiverse, and it split off at a certain point, and then this is this dimension here or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question. So we saw in Highlander's office, McCloud's office, there's a picture of his adopted son on his desk. It's like a headshot, an acting headshot of this kid, and it's like signed with a note on the kid, and it's framed on his desk, which I thought was really hilarious that would happen, or that he'd have that on his desk at all, or that he'd have a headshot of his son. It's crazy, right?
It brought me. It totally went over my head when I was watching it, but thank you so much for bringing. That's why I like watching these movies with you, because there's stuff that I miss that you catch.
Same.
We talked about this quite a bit last week.
Definitely, yeah. I love the things that you catch that I don't as well. Like Sandy and Sally or whatever. Oh, that was great.
Sandy and Cindy.
Sandy and Cindy.
Yeah.
All right, so we asked you, what is written on the kid's headshot? What did he say to his dad? And here are the answers. Lil Punk. Lil Punk.
Lil Punk. Would the son have written that? Like he writes it on a picture of himself and gives it to his dad.
Yeah, I'm a little punk. Or is his dad? Is he calling his dad Lil Punk? Like that's like a term of endearment that he says to him.
I love it both ways.
Or did his dad? Maybe Highlander is so old and has met so many people he can't remember ever who he's looking at, and so the kid he had to write a note of like, oh, this is that little punk that I knew. It's like a reminder, like, oh yeah, that's my son. I have to write down. All right. So the next one, to Dad, love John. Pretty standard.
Good, straightforward.
No clue. Huh? Is the fourth one just huh? And then can't remember. So that guy. So I love
those
this
together. I feel like people thought there was a correct answer to this, and this question was just supposed to be us dicking around.
I think some people take it as like,
yeah.
Is this like a quiz? Some people take it like a quiz rather than.
Oh, that would make sense. Okay.
Yeah. Which is fine too. I like the serious answers, especially like when it's a real question about like the movie title. So no clue, huh? And can't remember. Perfect. Non-answers together. Then next one. Hi, I'm your son, John. Love John. In parentheses, your son. What then? I can work weekends, John McCloud.
Work weekends.
I can work weekends.
What a great son/employee.
I think that was supposed to be. I wrote that after maybe a few drinks.
Okay.
The first one makes sense. The second one, I think I was trying to write it from the actor's perspective, and like saying like, "Oh, this is what was written on his actual headshot he submitted to the production company."
Yeah.
And then, Dad, you forgot my birthday again. Love, John. Oh, that's a sad one. But
it also, they had a real weird relationship, so I apologize for that.
Yeah. Last question here, and we'll get to the movie. What was the point of showing the same actress playing the girl from the past? So yeah, they had the love interest in this. They showed a time 300 years ago of the same actress, and McCloud fell in love with her, and they never got together. But it wasn't the same person at all. And they kind of make you think that it's going to be her, but it's not. She ain't a Lady Immortal at all. It's just the same actress, and I can't understand why they did that. But the first answer we got here is if you live long enough, the random people generator spits out duplicates. I like whoever took this survey first. He's great. The director.
I think he's a little punk. Or she's a little punk.
Yeah, she's a little punk. We're talking to you if you're listening, little punk. Okay. The next one, the director had mentioned wanting to tie the. Oh wait, okay, this is a real answer.
Good. This might just answer the question.
The director had mentioned wanting to tie the new love interest into something from Connor's past as a means of making her more than just some new girl he meets. Having that idea of a soulmate added some depth. McLeod battling an enemy from the past and finding a new love from the past kind of makes sense. Okay, so they just wanted it to just remind him a lot of his old love, right?
Yeah.
That's probably what it was. It's just the director's choice.
Yeah, and it is different. I think like we gave these movies some shit for just finding a new blonde for him to hook up with for one scene. So maybe that's it. They just wanted it to feel a little more consequential than that.
Yeah.
I still think they just should have just made her an immortal.
Right.
Just make it the same character.
Well, luckily they tried that in Endgame. We'll get to that soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
The next answer to this question, to trigger the flashback, it ties Connor to her immediately. Yeah, okay. Right. So that the audience that hasn't watched The Highlander before can understand it a bit better, to show that Connor loved her quite a lot. Okay, but it's the different girl, though.
Yeah.
It's not...
It's a different human being.
Different person that played by the same actress. Mm-hmm. Who knows? They ran out of money and decided to confuse the audience into thinking there was a female immortal, but they didn't have the balls.
Ooh. A little spice on that one.
You don't have the balls to put a female immortal in there. Mm-hmm. One less actress that gets royalty checks. That's it. There it is. Purely a business decision.
It's a financially motivated, creative decision.
Yes, fantastic.
Yeah. Well, thank you to strangers on the internet for taking our survey and helping us. I don't know, make some jokes on these movies that we're watching.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Hopefully you decide to follow along and you fall in love with me and Chris as individuals, personally in our actual lives.
We look exactly like someone from your past, but we're different people.
We are somebody you used to love.
All right, go Tay.
Oh no. No. Is that copywritten? Can I even say that?
Apple Music's gonna come for you,
dude. Okay, I'm not gonna get into that song. I want to get into Highlander Endgame instead. What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right. So the movie today is Highlander Endgame. It's the fourth movie in the Highlander franchise. It came out in the year 2000. And was directed by Douglas Aroniokoski.
Nailed it. Yep. Totally nailed it.
Arniokoski. Arniokoski.
Arniokoski.
With 2 A's. And I don't know what else he's done. Never heard of the guy. Never heard of him. Who cares? Anyway, where do we begin with this movie, Chris?
I believe we begin in New York City. Do we not?
Probably.
Yeah.
There's a really long intro that's just kind of like lightning, and it's really poorly made, I felt. Kind of a slow start to the movie.
No, that's fair. The first thing I remember was them walking around in New York City speaking in French in like, comment allez-vous? And then all of a sudden they switch into English, and then Connor McLeod turned on his McLeod Batman voice, like the really gruff thing that he does, but he didn't do it in French. Anyway, not important, but they're walking around New York City, and then Connor is there with, what's his relationship to Duncan? Are they cousins or just from the same clan?
Yeah, just from the same clan. In the TV show, did you watch the first episode? I think they explain it a little bit.
I did. I feel like we should still put a little bit of an explainer here at the top, because they brought a character from this TV show as kind of the second lead in this movie.
Yeah, Adrian Paul is the Highlander from the TV show. He's a McLeod. His name is Duncan McLeod. And in the
Yep.
show, they do a little flashback and just kind of show you that he was like trained by, like, I don't know, 50 years later or something. He was trained by Connor and became his mentor. And then the show follows him and whatever all happens with that. But yeah, in this one they're reunited again. Because Connor is in just the pilot of the show, and that kind of ties in with the movie and all that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then so now they're here together. And
I thought they did a pretty good job of incorporating Duncan, but we'll get into that more and more. I wasn't. Yeah, it was good. So anyway, they're in New York City. They're walking around, and something is clearly troubling Connor, the original Highlander, and he kind of storms off without really explaining what's going on. It's kind of a strange exit. And he walks back to the same store that he had in the first Highlander movie.
Yes, the antique store. He tells Duncan to watch his back and that people change, Duncan. You'll learn that.
Yes.
So, yeah, he's acting shady or just kind of, he knows something's afoot.
Yes. I don't know how he knows that, because what's about to happen is an explosion that he had nothing to do with, but he somehow had, like, future vision.
Well, he's immortal. No, I mean, I know he can, like, feel things, so maybe he could feel that Kel was nearby or something, the villain of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But what does happen here?
He gets back to his antique shop just in time for an enormous explosion that kills Rachel, who was also in the first movie, was the little girl that he saved from the Nazis. She's not immortal, but had kind of, he'd taken her under his wing, and she was like running his antique store for him so he could go around and sword fight. So he could just go around and sword fight. That's the end of that sentence.
Yeah.
And after that, we get it kind of rocks Connor's world. He loses one of his best friends, one of the only people left in the world that he has a strong connection with. And we get this scene of him wearing this strange metal helmet that they end up explaining a little bit later, and kind of just narrating some of his memories.
And he's
anything
like
else you want to hit on from this intro?
Like chained up and locked up on some standing chair looking thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, he says something about how it's like present day. It's sanctuary present day. And whatever time that is, and he kind of ponders like, I don't know if it's been 10 days, 10 years, 100 years or something. So he's just like locked up in a chair living forever, basically, in a place called the Sanctuary. And a lot of back and forth scenes. I think it goes back to Scotland or 1555. And there's scenes they brought back the same actress from the first movie that he was in love with in Scotland for new scenes, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of shows Connor going back to his original town. And
I did like that we got some more Highlander stuff, because that is the name of this franchise. I don't think we've had any Highlander content since movie one, or not much.
Really. Yeah. There's like a couple moments where he like, I think he's like, he does the forge in the last movie where he goes back to Scotland.
That's right, and
it's not a flashback.
The third movie does finish in Scotland too, but this is some actual content from his origin story. And it's kind of a pretty intense scene. He meets you meet him after having been exiled from his clan because he's immortal and they think he's like a witch, and so they've kicked him out of town, and he's been banished, and he's living there with his love. But people are coming around and harassing him, and so he goes back to the town to visit with his mother, and she is kind of alone and kind of sickly, and everyone has kind of turned their back on his mother because she raised this strange witchcraft boy.
Yeah, they say that her womb is devilish, and
You
They
normally have to pay extra for that.
they they ask her to declare Connor McLeod not of your loins. So they want her to disown him and say that it's not her son or whatever, so they don't kill her. They're threatening to burn her, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Charged with heresy. Heresy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Heresy?
Heresy, I think. Yeah.
I think you're right.
And then, yeah, so they throw Connor in jail, and they put his mom, she doesn't disown him, and they put her on the stake and start burning her alive.
And there's also one little thing in here too. He has a buddy that he grew up with, and he was a good friend to, who does not vouch for him among the posse that comes and like finds him to throw him in jail. He has a previous connection with one of these guys, and the guy like kind of turns his back on Connor and allows him to be thrown in jail.
Yeah,
and
it turns out it's the Kel guy we mentioned before.
Yeah.
And it's his old friend, and this guy, he's probably more concerned with the devil inhabiting Connor McLeod's body than he is with his previous friendship. Like, the way they look at it back then would be like he's not himself anymore, kind of thing.
Right. Yep.
But yeah, Connor escapes from jail, kills some guards, gets out, and tries to save his mom, and ends up killing Kel's father, right?
Who is a priest. Yeah.
Yeah. So then Kel is all pissed off. Did I miss anything there?
No, I think that's about it. And like you said, there's a lot of... they didn't actually tell us that Kel was immortal at this point. That was a nice little twist when they fully explained that. I did like that touch, because I didn't recognize that actor when they showed him without hair.
Yeah, they had the thing they kept showing is his shoes have like 3 crosses on the back of it, and they kept like showing that like it's the same guy, because he had the same.
That was a nice touch. I like that.
Yeah.
I also wrote down. I feel like we should point this out now, because I was watching this, I was like, didn't they already have a Kel? But no, the bad guys to this point in the series have been Kurgan, starts with a K, Katana starts with a K, Kane starts with a K, and now Kel.
Oh my god!
Kurgan, Katana, Kane, Kel.
They're all K's. Good catch.
All K. We're 4 for 4.
Wow. Oh man, I hope that continues with a K.
Me too. It continues.
You know what's weird about that? Just a side note is that I was thinking about this today. I had this vision of Christopher Lambert. I was like, I think one of these movies he's got like long white hair and he's battling with a sword. Like, I know it. I've seen it before, and it just like didn't happen. And I was like, what am I thinking of? And I realized he plays Raiden in Mortal Kombat, in the first Mortal Kombat movie, and he's got like the long white hair. Yeah,
there you go.
And that's what I was thinking of. And that combat starts with a K. Anyways.
Whoa, dude! Conspiracy theory.
Well, I just brought it all together.
That's right.
Yes. So, where are we?
We get a kung fu scene, and I was hoping you could like fill in what's going on here, but it's Kel, and like he's got like a posse of immortals,
motorcycle gang.
They seem to be just going around killing immortals together to like level up and steal their powers. But the kung fu scene, I went into it a little skeptical, but it was a pretty good fight scene. I don't know if you felt the same way. Yeah, like
oh yeah. Well, it was okay. I didn't love it. I think the editing, I wrote down a few times, the editing in this movie is very sloppy and confusing sometimes. And it just made me appreciate like good editing. It's hard to describe, but a lot of just like weird cuts, and like I thought the final battle was a good scene. I didn't think this was a very good fight scene.
Okay. I think I just liked it because of I don't know, they shot it differently. Like we've had so many sword fights that I've seen through 4 of these movies, And this one, they used like the kung fu wires. There was slow-mo. There were a bunch of like up shots of people flying through the air. And it really did feel like I don't know, like a not quite Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon style kung fu fight, but it felt different than all the sword fights.
Yeah, this was post The Matrix with all the wire fight scenes that were huge in the early 2000s. So yeah, it definitely had a lot of that.
What year
what's that?
What year did this one come out?
2000.
2000.
Matrix
okay.
was 1999, and that kind of kicked off like a whole bunch of those, like the wire, wire kung fu fighting and stuff. And then there was a good spot but where the bike explodes, and then they do like the person like does like a ninja kick off of the exploding bike. I thought that was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And then he kicks one of the guy's feathery helmets at like a gunman. Which I thought was pretty good too.
Yeah.
At one point in the fight, at the end of the fight, this is Duncan, right?
Yes,
Duncan MacLeod. He lets the guy just shoot him, one of these immortal gang members.
Henchmen.
Henchmen. Lets him shoot him, and he falls out the window and gets impaled on like a gate spike. And Kel did not like that. He was pretty pissed about it. Did he kill the guy that did that?
He did. Did that happen right then? He did end up killing that guy, and there's a funny shot. So I want to talk about that guy. So
this is a different fight that we're talking about. Sorry.
Yeah, I think we're.
This is outside the. This is outside the sanctuary. I was thinking.
Yeah.
When they bust into the warehouse or whatever.
I know exactly where you're at. Yeah, and we get another fight scene with those guys. But yeah, I think at this point we're still at the sanctuary, and this crew of dudes like breaks in. Can you explain the sanctuary to me? I don't know that I quite understand it.
Well, I haven't seen enough of the show. I know the show introduces these people, and they are in this movie called The Watchers, right?
Okay.
And they take note and watch over what the immortals are doing, and they're fully aware, but they don't interfere. And I don't know all the lore and stuff about it, because there's 6 seasons of the show to sift through. But that's basically it. The sanctuary, I think, is where, and they do explain it in the movie. They go there to just like
to chill,
just like lay off and be like hidden from the world, but live forever, so that somebody cannot absorb all the power, right? Because they don't want the Watchers don't want there to be a final evil immortal. They don't want Kel to like win, or whoever it could be, a Kurgan or whoever. They don't want like an evil immortal to get the last power or win the prize, win the game.
Okay.
So they take people in. I think a lot of them volunteer to just go and like live out their immortal life chained up. Just to be hidden away, right? So that he doesn't get the final one. But yes, does that make sense?
That does make sense. Yes, thank you. And they did use a metaphor in the movie too. Like some people like were getting so tired of like killing people and being part of this game that this was like an escape, and you could be there and be safe. But in this movie, not that safe, because the immortal Kel and his crew shows up and kills all the dudes that are there.
Yeah, he goes through and chops off all of their heads one by one while they're in the chair. And I think
just stealing those quickening powers.
I know. So he gets all of those, and you think maybe Connor was a part of that because he was chained up as well. And then you get a shot back to Duncan, who is now going to he says it's been 10 years since Rachel died and Connor's disappeared. And I think this is when he's talking to Methos, right?
This is where we meet Methos, yes.
Yeah, he's 5,000 years old. From what I read, just randomly, he's the oldest immortal living right now, like in the show. And he doesn't die in this, does he?
No.
So Oh, anyway, the end doesn't end. He's not the final immortal in the end, right? Even though, because Methos is still out there. I didn't even think about that until
Yes.
just now.
I don't think this wasn't the end. It didn't seem they would have made a bigger deal of it being the last guy, right? Because I was under the impression he just killed Kel, and they were worried Kel was getting so strong that there weren't any immortals left that could knock him off.
So those two weren't the actual last two necessarily.
That's my understanding. Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he returns, or he talks to Kel. They explain the sanctuary, get away from the game, but it had been annihilated, is what he tells Duncan. And so, where's it go here?
We go back in time to Ireland, and we have like a early Connor and Duncan adventure where they, I think we meet Kate here.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the love interest of Duncan.
Yep. And she is in a stagecoach that's being held up by some robbers pretending to take taxes for the king. And so these guys kind of like spring into action and steal some of the money, but also fight off these bad guys. Also, did you recognize one of the bad guys?
I did, and I don't remember who he was at this point, but I remember recognizing somebody.
It's from that movie. It's the Edge from WWE.
Yeah.
But it's we watched the movie
Money
Plane together pretty recently, and I was like, oh, it's that guy.
Oh, you're right. I saw him in the credits with an appearance by Edge, and I didn't put it together when I actually saw him there.
Yeah, well, and then they put a sneaky little line in the dialogue too. Right after, I think it was right after they killed him. One of them says to him, "Looks like you lost your edge, lad."
Oh God!
And
nice.
It gave me a little chuckle.
I thought Edge was a newer wrestler when we saw Money Plane, which came out like 3 or 4 years ago. I thought he was like one of the newer guys, but he's been around since the 90s, I guess.
He must have been, yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he took his wrestling name from this 2-second cameo. Yeah.
He got to start in here and then went to wrestling.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's a very comic fight. But it also made me think like
goofy.
It was super goofy. But like regular people can cut off immortals' heads, or no?
I don't see why not.
Because they're like real fast and loose with getting into sword fights. If that was the only thing that could kill me, I feel like I would be much more averse to getting into sword fights.
I think, most people, if you're going to get in a sword fight and you're not immortal and you don't know anything about that, you wouldn't chop their head off necessarily. You just stab them in the heart or stab them a few times and like that'd be good enough. So, plus, they probably just like sword fighting. Get off on it,
These movies would be pretty boring without the sword fighting too. It's kind of a key element to the Highlander verse. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just kind of I feel like we didn't learn too much about it in this old scene. It just was kind of it's just showing him and Connor through the ages, right?
Duncan and Connor. I think it was how Kate and Duncan met.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And they have like a love story through time that we kind of learn about throughout this movie, and so I think they were just kind of setting the table with that. But it does jump back to the present, and Duncan shows up to Connor's old apartment, which again got blown up in that giant explosion that killed Rachel.
They haven't like renovated it or torn it down yet. It's still in the same state it was as when it exploded 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Like still charred wood everywhere.
You'd think like the city or somebody, the owner of that building would tear it down and rebuild something there, right?
You really would think that, but they did. And so Duncan finds that inner chamber. We saw it briefly in the first movie, but it was full of just like priceless artifacts. You also think somebody would have gone in and taken those out of there if they're...
Yeah, that survived the blast like perfectly, right?
Yeah, totally fine.
So we get another one of the classic Highlander tropes of digging through old stuff and reminiscing and looking at old photos and memorabilia from the guy's history, right? And then it flashes back to Italy again.
Yep. And they helpfully re-explain what a quickening is in case this is your first Highlander experience. And Connor also teaches Duncan this unstoppable move. So there was an unstoppable move in the last movie too, and this one's a little different, but it's like a
explain it to me.
I don't know,
missed that.
kind of like a dance step, and then you slice the guy's head off at the end.
Does he do that at the end of this movie?
It's how Duncan kills. Oh, I don't want to spoil it, but he kills another important character later on.
So he does use it.
He does use it one other time.
Nice. And we get more on Faith, Duncan's ex-wife, who is not the greatest actress, from what I can tell. Very beautiful. And
Faith is also Kate. They are the same thing.
Yes. Well, I think it cuts. I guess it cuts back to the present, right? And she's now Faith. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
And she's like a model or something.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here. Yeah.
No, you're doing good. This is great.
Yeah,
but we see her again here pretty quickly because Duncan gets kind of jostled out of this flashback to Italy because that posse, Kel and Dame Dash, who we'll talk about in a second, and a bunch of that posse that we saw before has found him at Connor's old spot, and they have shown up on motorcycles to kill him.
Yeah, this is the scene I was describing where they burst in through the walls on a motorcycle.
Yes.
And she kicks him as well. I don't think I realized they were the same person yet. Maybe I did. But one of the henchmen, they got all these colorful henchmen. They're all very silly. The silliest of them all is this guy with the facial hair. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking. He looks like he belongs in the band Lit from 1995.
He's got this facial hair and they have a good picture of it later when they're at a dinner. He's got his sideburns go all the way down to right at the crease of his mouth. And then he also has a chin strap.
Sideburns. Yeah.
Yeah. It goes all the way down both sides to his mouth, and then he's also got the chin strap all the way around. So there's two parallel lines of hair basically going down to his chin. Very goofy. But he pulls out a club and says, "Did somebody order a club sandwich?"
God, I didn't write that down. Ew, ick, gross, groan.
And they kind of have this the Warriors style look, this kind of futuristic, post-apocalyptic, goofy henchman look, that you see in a lot of movies like this.
I also like the touch. Each one of them had a different weapon. It was kind of like a Ninja Turtle thing. Yeah,
exactly. I call them the future cronies.
Good.
Yeah. So,
can I talk for a minute? So we're about to get to this part of the scene. So Tanner kind of touched on it before, but one of the henchmen shoots Duncan. So Kel comes in to kill Duncan. Right. This is his big moment to kill another immortal, steal up the power. But one of the henchmen comes in with a gun and shoots him out a window. And you would think that dude would know better because he's been immortal. You got to cut the head off.
Yep.
Right? You'd think you know better.
Is that guy immortal for sure?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, the actor who plays that guy is Damon Dash, who started Rockefeller Records with Jay-Z.
Oh,
and
really?
Also dated Aaliyah for the last year and a half of her life before she died in that plane crash in the Bahamas. So he's very famous, very rich dude who isn't known for acting. And I thought it was really strange that he was in this movie at all.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he's an actor. I've never seen him in anything else. I mostly just know his name because Kanye West used to rap about him a lot. But it's, back before he was a full Nazi.
Wait, this guy's a Nazi? Oh, Kanye West.
Kanye West said some pretty problematic things in the last year or two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like he's in a bunch of Jay-Z music videos, so not a lot of Not in he was in some movies after this, maybe like 10 altogether. Okay. But yeah. Interesting.
Anyways, a strange character to have in this movie. Somebody that I didn't even know was in movies. So it's funny to see his name.
Did you recognize him, or did you knew the name?
I knew the name from like I said, from those old songs, and then I looked up his Wikipedia page and kind of read through.
Gotcha.
Through those things, and I did know the Rockefeller thing. I didn't know the Aaliyah thing, and he's got some other stuff in there too. If you read through, but he's had some controversy in his life as well.
Gotcha.
But
cool, yeah. Anyway. So he shoots him out the window and he gets impaled. How does Kel react to that?
But right after he does that, he does say, "Guess I'm not much of a swords guy," and it's one of like the two lines that he gets in the movie. Super cheesy. Kel is not happy. He decapitates Damon Dash, chops his head off, and he says, "I call this decap with a twist."
No sugar.
Yeah.
I love that. A coffee joke. Decap coffee.
Yeah. It shows a close-up of Dame Dash's head on the ground, decapitated, right? Because he got his head cut off, like blinking, and it's a pretty funny visual, especially knowing how rich that is.
That's crazy. Yeah, he must have. Yeah. I don't know. I know the original director was like a music video director. Maybe somehow he got in with. I don't even know. Yeah. The fight scene is. I didn't love the fight scene, but there was a ton of shirt slices in this scene. Just like so many
shirt slices. Like, this movie had a
shirt slicing.
Yeah, I feel like they got a shirt slicer like tech guy that was like, I can make this pop on camera, and they just wrote it all over the script. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So Duncan gets impaled outside, and then that happens where this guy gets his head cut off. And some guys in vans show up and get a buzzsaw and saw the gate off and take Duncan away in a van. So they like cut off the piece that impaled him and get him out of there. And these guys...
Are these the Watchers?
These are the Watchers.
Really weird. Okay, your explanation from before is helping me kind of understand their role a little more. Because I was going to say, how the hell did they know, A, that he was there at all, and B, that they would need that type of saw and show up at that exact moment? Like, right. It's such a specific rescue, you know?
Yeah, I assume they just had like the tools on hand, because I don't think they can predict the future or anything. You know, it was very fortuitous of them to have that saw ready to go. But it could just be a van full of all sorts of stuff that they may need to save the immortals.
What other things do you think they have in that van? What other tools would you have if you had to save immortals?
There we go.
Mm-hmm. Like maybe a crowbar.
Well, we'll save it for the survey.
A hot glue gun. That's all. Those three things. Yes. We will save it.
Yeah. So you kind of find out about the Watchers here. I definitely think this movie was made for real fans. You know what I mean? Especially of the TV show. But also trying to do it justice to keep it aligned with the original. Which I really appreciated with the movie, despite its like kind of drab look and bad acting and whatever else. But you kind of find out about the Watchers here, which would be totally confusing if you hadn't watched the show. And luckily, I just had kind of read about the show, and I still don't know everything about it, but
it is some important context. I think it. Yeah, I think it makes watching this movie a little more enjoyable.
So they normally don't interfere, but they are so like the part of the things they only interfere, I guess, if it's like they feel like an evil immortal is getting too much power, which is kind of happening here. So they're kind of like, they explain that in this scene, they say there must always be two instead of there can only be one. They say there must always be two, or else the world's going to go to shit. Right. So they want to make sure.
They did say that, and I didn't really understand why.
Well, they're just saying, basically, they're explaining that Kel is going to be unbeatable because he's killed a ton of people, and the more you kill, the stronger you get in this world.
Yep.
And they want to make sure the prize is not taken by anyone. They don't want anyone to win the prize, the Watchers. So they're kind of pulling some strings behind the scenes, trying to make sure that...
I understood that need to comment differently then, because I understood it like they need 2 Highlanders. They need 2 McLeods.
No, they just need two. They don't want any...
Period.
They never want there to just be only one. Because
okay, that makes more
that's
sense.
too much power for the world for one thing, and it's that, you know, they don't want that to ever happen. So they are always trying to make sure. That's why they have the sanctuary, is to make sure that there isn't ever just one person. The problem with the sanctuary is that they should have like one person here, one person across the world, you know, in different areas if they're going to harbor these immortals. They shouldn't have them all in one place.
Kind of fish in the barrel. Yeah.
Because once you got in there, it's the easy pickings, just killing them all. Yeah, so that's what the Watchers are doing. And I think they explain that Connor is at the sanctuary, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Real quick before we move on from that shot, there was a weird moment where Duncan got like this weird nasal shot. I don't know if that's from the TV show, but it was weird. I just wanted to say that out loud.
Oh, yeah, the Watchers like inject him with something, right?
Yeah, like a huge, like a giant syringe full of blue shit, and they shove it up his nose. It's very strange.
Did anything happen after that?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember any results from that.
Yeah, maybe I need to watch this thing again, but it didn't really seem like it did anything.
Kind of. There's more with these Watchers, but it does do a quick flashback here of Connor finding Duncan on the battlefield, awakening from death. Let's see.
Connor, by the way, in that scene, looking very much like Sean Connery's Ramirez, with like some funky pirate, like flamboyant threads he's wearing. Yeah, exactly.
And then I think that's just a quick flashback of kind of him finding him, and supposed to show you like how they came to meet. If you haven't watched the show, I think came to meet.
I have a theory here, Tanner. I have a
Yes.
theory, because I was checking my notes. I think Duncan is being put into the sanctuary. And
that's
so I
what
think my guess is that the nasal injection is some sort of like
sedative,
put you to sleep sedative kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So when he's in the chair, that's when he's having these flashbacks and like thinking about his life and all that.
There you go. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So they basically captured him and like tried to make him because they need to have immortals alive because they don't want there to only be one. But then some old guy saves him and with Mythos, right? I guess they're not part of I don't know who that old guy was. Shows up at the end too, but he's like Methos's henchman or like friend or whatever, and he saves him again. Methos is the oldest immortal, and I know there's a lot about him in the show, and I don't know much about him, unfortunately. But they show that the Watchers have this database. I loved this part.
This was fantastic. Yes,
they have a little computer. Program or whatever, it's on the internet or whatever it is, that shows how many kills every immortal has.
I like to think that it's like an Encarta floppy disk that from the lady in the last movie. It's just that was one that she had. Yeah,
but it updates though every time they get a kill. Somehow they know about it, and who killed them and when. So it says like Connor has 262 confirmed kills, Duncan has 174 confirmed kills, and then Jacob Kell has 661 kills.
Dun, dun, dun.
So it's just like he's getting way too powerful to exist, and he must be killed, right? And he's evil.
Yes.
So,
was that question for you? Does that mean so? Connor has 262. Does that mean that he personally has killed 262 immortals?
Yes.
Not that like.
Oh, that somebody he killed had killed 5, and he inherited 5 from that person.
Exactly.
Good question. Like, does he have the power of 262 people, or
did he personally kill 262?
Good question.
Okay, great.
I think. Well, it does say confirmed kills. So
You're right.
I don't.
The
yeah.
way I saw it when I watched it was like this. It caught me off guard because we've seen him kill, I don't know, maybe 8 people.
Yeah.
And for them to set that number at 262, they could make sequels to this movie forever.
That's the thing. Yeah, I mean, I assume, they do keep showing all these flashbacks throughout here. They keep adding it throughout the movies and the show of just like, oh, this was another immortal he killed. In the TV show, I mean, he probably kills an immortal every episode or two, right? So,
Got to, yeah.
Because otherwise, what are you doing? But yeah, so
what are you doing?
He's been killing immortals all the time. But I do wonder if
killing people until you run out of K names is really it.
When he kills Kel, does he have 800 kills automatically? Right, that's kind of your question. This could be a question.
Okay.
On the survey,
and honestly, some of those Reddit folks might know.
Yeah.
Yep.
I also had a question here. Like, what is the mortal male equivalent to racking up kills? Like, yeah, we'll talk about that after.
Okay, love it.
So yeah, tons of quickenings, 661 quickenings Jacob's had. Yeah, what happens next?
At this point, Methos takes Duncan to see Connor's dead body because Duncan has been told that Connor is dead, and he doesn't believe that he's dead. And so,
yeah, because he can feel him.
Yeah, and again, this death was supposed to happen when, and the viewers are kind of left a little ambiguous. Like, was Connor killed when the sanctuary was raided? And so that's what Duncan has been told, and so he doesn't believe it. He wants to go see for himself. So they take him to a cemetery, and Connor is there, and Kel is also there, and this is where they really connect. That this was his buddy. This was the guy whose dad he killed. This was the guy he stabbed. And so he has a vendetta, something to prove against Connor. Is that how you read that scene too?
Yeah, definitely. There's a quick shot right before that of, I think it's Kel playing the harmonica on a rooftop. Did you catch
weird,
that?
Yeah.
And it's like, it sounds like bagpipes, or it's like it's playing a harmonica to make it sound like bagpipes.
Yeah.
Which I thought was funny. Yeah, so the little showdown at the graveyard is here. Let's see.
I don't know if you caught the line, what's wrong? Don't you want to be inside me?
Yeah. He says that a few times in this.
A few times, yeah.
Don't you want to be inside me? Yeah, so they kind of talk about, like you said, his getting revenge on Connor for killing his dad. And this is on holy ground, so they're not allowed to actually kill each other.
By the way, that cemetery looked so fake.
Yeah, definitely.
So fake.
It's so foggy, too.
There were just 10 headstones, and all of them were cross-shaped.
Yeah. What does your cemetery look like?
They're all dick shaped, or like the Stussy, the cool S. That's what my cemetery looks like.
What's that? The cool S?
You know the S that you write by drawing 3 lines and then 3 lines and you connect it? That's what I want my headstone to be. Yeah.
That'd be so cool. Oh my god.
Such a cool headstone.
So cool. It'd say Chris, but then the S is really huge and have that S.
Absolutely. Sign me up.
Yeah, so they don't fight. He does mention that he's been there every time anything as bad has happened to Connor. He's been behind it, basically, is what he's kind of inferring. Everyone who's ever died that he loved, he's been behind it. And then at the end of the scene, they kind of have a little showdown. He could have killed him, but it's on holy ground. And he promises to kill Connor when they're the last 2 remaining only. Like, he wants him alive for that. Oh, and you find out that Kel saved Connor's life for the same reason, right? He killed everyone else in the sanctuary except for Connor. He wants him to suffer, wants him to be the last one and have that final showdown. And then he like teleports away at the end of this, right? Like he has teleportation powers or something.
I didn't catch that, but I would believe it.
It just kind of goes like zoom, and he's gone. And in the subtitles it said Jacob departs. So then I was like, okay, can he just teleport anywhere?
That seems like if he could do that, they should have used that a lot more. Yeah, but you're exactly right. It could be sorcerer magic. Yeah.
So one little tidbit, I'll just get into this now, is that there were scenes in the trailer that were not in the movie, suggesting that the villain possessed supernatural abilities, and they weren't in the final cut of the movie, just in the trailer. And there was a scene showing Connor and Duncan leaping through a magical portal, and it was revealed that these scenes were shot exclusively for the trailer after the movie to make the film look more interesting. Isn't that insane?
That is crazy. Like, we need some exciting shit to sell this movie. So don't go find exciting shit from the movie. Just make some new stuff.
Just makes the shit that isn't in the movie, and like, oh, let's throw a magic portal in there. Let's put some supernatural stuff in there, and then it's not even in there. Yeah, so, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that is pretty crazy.
The original trailer also showed Connor McLeod splitting Kel in two with a sword and becoming two people, and that never happened in the movie.
Oh, I wish that had happened. That would have made Kel such a better bad guy.
We should watch the trailer.
Okay, yeah, we'll dig that up after.
Yeah, pretty crazy. So, where were we here? Yeah, so he teleports away.
And then we get a flashback.
Okay.
We go back to Duncan, and he's getting married. We're back in Highlander times, and it's to that girl Kate that he saw and kind of like rescued from the stagecoach or whatever. And apparently he is getting married to her, but has not told her that he's immortal, which seems like a little bit of something you should tell your partner.
There's a lot of.
Would you tell Rachel?
Oh, there's a lot of problematic stuff here, but in the next couple scenes.
Yes.
So she's also immortal too, and he can kind of feel it, but she doesn't know that she's immortal. Like, she has the ability to become immortal potentially, right?
Yes.
So they've established in an older Highlander, and maybe the first one even, that a very violent attack must happen for it to be triggered if you have this inside of you. If you die of old age or something, it's not going to happen. But apparently Connor or Duncan, they can sense that she is one of those people, and she just doesn't know it. And Connor tells Duncan, like, they're getting married and all this, and basically tells him, don't fall in love because this happened to me. He fell in love with the original girl Heather, and it broke his heart. There's a shot of the original Heather girl from the first movie, Connor's love, cutting her hair off and saying that she wants it because her hair doesn't age. She wants him to remember her like that or something. Did you catch that?
I did. I didn't really understand it.
Yeah, it wouldn't. I mean, does hair not like disintegrate over time or something? Does it not like get old? It just like stays perfect forever. If you cut off your hair, it just like stays that way. I feel like it turns into dust over time, but maybe I'm wrong. But also when she cuts her hair off, she's like bloody. So I don't understand. Is she cutting it at the roots? You know what I mean? It's like a weird scene.
She cut too close. Yeah.
And why didn't she just cut off a lock of her hair and give it to him? Instead, it's like her crying and like bloody and like cutting her hair. It's very strange.
When I ask girls for locks of their hair, I'm just kidding.
I just do it in secret. I sneak up behind them when they're sleeping and like cut it, and I put it in my collection.
You add it to your little altar.
My little altar, yeah.
Uh-huh.
But so he tells Duncan, don't fall in love. You don't want to do it. He says, she is in the flower of her youth. Enjoy the moment and let it pass. So basically just saying,
He's
don't
saying,
fall
hit
in
it,
love.
quit it.
You didn't quit it. Exactly.
Mhm.
Plenty of
Yeah.
pretty girls out there. You're going to be happier if you don't get involved. And then I think it kind of goes back to the future or the present.
Well, there's a couple other pieces in this
Okay.
little scene. It makes it pretty apparent. Well, there's a sexy scene. Or am I jumping ahead a little bit here?
You're jumping ahead.
Okay, great. I'll wait for it then. Go ahead. We jump back to the future.
The sexy scene is in a little bit. Yeah, it's her.
Okay.
Now it shows her as like Faith in the future and kind of she owns like a modeling company or something, right?
Sure.
And there's all these models. There's like flying shots of Scotland and then New York, and then it's the models. And Duncan shows up there and kind of talks to her. He tries to apologize after all this time, 400 years. And I guess they hadn't seen each other since she ran off. Okay, so here's the crazy part to me. Okay, well, how do we get into this? Is this when it happens?
When she is made immortal, or when we find out she's dating Kel? There's a lot of weird shit that's happening at this point in the movie.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, is this too early for when it shows what happened to her when she's made immortal?
No, because I think this is this scene. So it shows that she's now dating Kel, which is like problematic for a bunch of reasons. But then it shows this. So yeah, I'll let you take this.
This is, yeah. So it just shows her dating Kel, and Kel says a line: "A woman is a temple built on a sewer," which is insane. And then they kind of have this exchange of like
chivalry, Tanner. Look it up.
There's an exchange of just like, I can have anything you want. She's like, except me, and he's like, I already had you. Not really, close enough. Which is, I guess, was supposed to be flirting, but it's really creepy. And the music in this scene is really funny too. It's just kind of this like, I don't know how to describe it. It's bad is all I can say. It's like a really cheap elevator music or something like that.
It did strike me a couple of times in this movie. There were like there was like a knockoff Moby song at one point, and they're like, I don't know, from getting like an original soundtrack from one of the biggest rock bands in the world, Queen, in the first one, like it has fallen quite a ways to get to movie number 4. The music quality, just overall.
Yeah, I mean it's a mix of just like old Scottish hymns and like free copyright free music.
Exactly, it's copyright free music. Yeah.
So yeah, then she goes after she talks to Duncan, then she goes back to Kel, and Kel's kind of a dick, or obviously a dick. And then she sneaks into Duncan's room and they fuck. And so there's a montage of them fucking throughout history, throughout time. It like flashes back to the past when they first met and they're having sex, and then the future and they're having sex, or the current. So I was wondering, what time period would you like to see them have sex during?
Oh, I love that. The bubonic plague.
Boob? Is that a boob joke?
It can be. It makes the joke better. Do you have one, Tanner? Do you have a time in history?
I'll save it for next week's survey reveal.
Perfect. I can't wait.
But he whispers forever during the sex scene, which, yeah. So then it shows it's after the montage of sex. It holds on the past, on the night of their wedding, and they consummate the marriage, and they're having sex. She falls asleep, and Duncan is sitting there over her, saying like, "Forgive me," whatever, and he stabs and kills her, which is insane. To like make her immortal with him, basically, and she didn't have a choice. He did not get consent to make her immortal.
He didn't tell her he was immortal.
Exactly. This is so fucked up. I mean, in so many ways.
The hero of the movie, Duncan MacLeod, 6 seasons of a TV show as the star. And you're right. And he just stabs this poor woman in the chest.
It's so crazy. Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
It's really fucked up. And he's just kind of like, I'm so sorry. 400 years later, he's saying, I'm sorry, because it's cutting in between this love session in the present. But men, am I right? They take a long time to apologize. She gets up, and after he kills her, and he's like, don't be frightened. You're immortal. We both are. It's just a really fucked up scene. I mean,
it is. Yeah.
He killed the woman he loved to make her immortal, permanently making her like, this whole franchise ponders the question of, do you want to be immortal? How awful is it to actually be immortal? Losing the ones you love. And I guess Duncan's like trying to make sure that doesn't happen so they can always be together. But she just, rightfully so, freaks out and leaves. But it seems like she's given him another chance now, because he did do it for love, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take here?
I think we can both go on the record and say we don't condone stabbing your sexual partners in right after. Okay, great. It's super fucked up and it's super weird. And she holds a grudge for 400 years. And then they want us to think there's like a will they, won't they thing going on kind of throughout this movie. Like, is she finally going to forgive him after all this time apart?
Yeah, he says at the end of the scene, one blessing of being immortal, or basically he says, is that there's always a tomorrow. He gets a chance for forgiveness, to right your wrong, kind of thing. And I think that's kind of the theme they're dealing with this stuff, is like, being immortal gives you that opportunity to, like, the one good thing, to right the wrongs that you made in the past.
Yeah. And I will say, as fucked up and as weird as this is, it is a nice... how do I say this? I'm like story-wise, I'm happy that it wasn't just another, girl that he's going to sleep with and then she's going to die. And because we've seen that storyline play out in each one of the movies to this point.
Totally.
So they tried something different here, and it was an interesting character.
Oh yeah, narratively, it's an interesting thing for sure. It's
without a doubt.
It's good, and it is fucked up, but that's okay. I mean, it's like, for the story, it's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Agreed. Real fucked up.
You really think they could have found a way to make her immortal, to trigger that like switch happening that didn't involve him stabbing her?
Yeah, or like, but I guess that was kind of the point, is he did it out of desperation, thinking that she'd be happy, like, oh, now we can actually live together forever. And it kind of gives a redeemable quality.
The situation. You're right. Yep.
Yeah. It gives him something to be redeemed for in the end, I guess. But they could have done something where he tells her and like asks her, do you want to become immortal with me? And then she decides yes. And then, then he kills her. But all right, so then after this, there's a big fancy dinner with Kel and all his cronies, and he's thanking them.
How many Michelin stars do you think that dinner was?
At least 3, which is max.
I think that's at least 3.
How many Michelin tires was that scene?
3 isn't enough, so we'll go 4. That's the minimum.
4 Michelin tires.
Yeah.
What happens at this dinner?
Kel kills everybody. So this is a dinner with Kel and his posse, and so the guy with the crazy facial hair that Tanner explained, and also Kate/Faith. And I think there was at least one other guy at this dinner. Is this true?
Oh, there's like 4 guys and Kate. And
great.
He goes one by one with 2 swords and like slices all of their heads off, and they don't really run away or fight back.
At all. They
just kind of accept it.
Yeah. And like Tanner said, two swords. He's doing like a scissor sword technique.
Yes.
To getting them from both sides. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this seems to be this might be the titular Endgame here, because he is just stealing their power so he can go, continue his quest to kill and embarrass Connor on his own. So he kills each one of the boys, and he also kills Kate. And so Duncan's won't they love, or does he? Yeah, she shows up later.
But yeah, we'll talk about that at the end. But
yes,
I was going to say there was a quick scene. I think he does this dinner because one of the guys is talking to Duncan right before that, the Asian guy, and says something about not being sure about what he's doing, right? Expressing some doubt. And so I think that's why Kel's like, well, it's time to kill all these guys because they're stepping out, and the girl's stepping out too. Yeah. So there's a super.
She was meeting up with her ex from 400 years ago.
I know. So we got a super quickening here as well. Out. The mega quickening happens. And then it cuts to Duncan. Duncan feels all this happening and goes to a rooftop and thinks Kel is there, but it turns out it's Connor. And Connor is just, he's not what he used to be. I guess the death of this girl really just ruined him. And Connor is, he makes Duncan fight him to the death, basically, because he's like, Kel is getting too strong. One of us needs to be dead for the other one to be able to kill Kel, right?
We need to pool our strength. One of us needs the other one's strength in order to fight Kel.
By the way, where's Keenan in all this?
That joke is all that, my friend.
Oh, yes. Perfect.
And
shout out to 90s kids.
Without a doubt. Was there a rule that you can't fight more than one immortal at a time? Was that a rule in the earlier movies?
I don't think that's a rule. It might just be kind of like mano a mano, man fighting rules, just do that, dude. That's not cool, kind of thing.
No, that's fair, but they made it a rule here because then one of them has to die. Yeah, they were like, yeah, you can't, when one has challenged to a fight, you can't. No one else can step in or something. And I didn't remember that being a rule.
I feel like it's a loose rule.
Is 1v1.
I feel like it's a loose rule, like don't fight on holy ground, which you can do technically, right? Mm-hmm. They just kind of abide to these rules, like an unwritten rule. I don't know. I missed that anyway.
Okay. Regardless, I don't think this scene deserves too much attention. Duncan ends up killing Connor with that super move that Connor taught him in Italy in that flashback earlier. So Connor McLeod, star of the franchise, has been killed.
He's dead.
He did.
There's a big quickening here. A giant rift in the sky opens, and sometimes during this scene, it's like sometimes daylight, sometimes nighttime. I think when they're filming it, I don't know, it changes the light outside every other cut.
I wrote down that
it's kind of a lazy.
The quickening, the way that they filmed it, the way they made it look in the very first one, which at this point is over 10 years old, looked better. I thought this quickening was 14. Super cheesy, shitty looking. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. It's just the practical effects, Yeah. But let's see. Oh, yeah, Connor, he forces him to kill him because he had every chance to kill Duncan. Duncan's like, I'm not going to do it. But he forces him to kill him. I think he knows that Duncan is mentally better suited at this point because Connor's a little bit checked out on the world, has nobody left, and since the death of Rachel and all that. Mm-hmm. So then it shows this is the scene where Duncan has now absorbed all the powers, and he's training in an old warehouse, right?
He sure is. There's also
warehouse.
a quick friendship montage that goes with that quickening that kind of shows Duncan and
their history,
and Connor just being buds.
kind of it gives you the little send off of Connor. You know, he's the original Highlander. And then he's done. He's out.
And he's out. And like Tanner said, there's a training montage in a big empty warehouse. It's pretty quick, and then we get into the final.
This is where he trains in the TV show. In that first episode, he's like training in a warehouse.
There you go. Okay,
I think it's the same one. Yeah. So he confronts Kel, and now there's going to be the final showdown, right? And
I do want to point out, you made that Keenan joke earlier, but Keenan also starts with K, which would make him a great villain for this franchise. Yep.
Oh, maybe the next one. We'll see.
Maybe the next one. Yeah.
So he confronts him and says, like, I stopped you from getting Connor's head, basically. It makes sense that Connor had to be the one to die for lots of reasons. It takes away Kel's, like, revenge fantasy. And... yeah, so there's a really bad line here. He says, I ever thought you had him in you. Did you catch that?
It's another in you line, which they don't seem to get the sexual innuendo, the double entendre of that line.
Well, in this one, they did make it seem like these people are like living inside of you to like, you know, like their consciousness is inside of you every time you kill them. Is that what?
Oh yeah, and there's one point at the end of
Don't you want to be inside me?
Where Connor's voice comes out of Duncan,
and his face, like it kind of shapeshifts his face a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. And why hasn't that happened with any of the other dead immortals at this point?
Right. It's just adding to the lore. Maybe it's because there's so many. They've killed so many now that they have new powers. You know.
Oh,
you know, the first one I wrote down here is like, whatever happened to the sorcery powers in the number 3, the one we just watched last week. You know, it introduces the fact that you can like learn illusion magic by killing. Like Connor should have more illusion magic.
Connor should be able to shapeshift
turn into a bird,
and drive cars through stuff and turn into a bridge.
Maybe he was the Brooklyn Bridge this entire time, and he was hiding. That'd be a good cover for instead of a sanctuary, you just become a bridge.
This movie. There you go. Yeah, I love it.
What would you? Okay, there's a question. What would you become for the rest of your life? What inanimate object?
I thought you were going to say, what bridge would you be? What a dumb question. What inanimate object
would you be for the rest of your life? Yeah. To hide instead of going to a sanctuary. All right, well, we'll think about that.
We'll think about that, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Man, this survey's writing itself tonight. I'm pretty happy about this.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones. So they charge each other, and they immediately fall off of a ledge and into a sewer somehow. Did you catch where they were during this scene? Like, where are they fighting?
Dude, great question. There's also a room in this fight scene that has hundreds of chains just hanging from the ceiling. Just hundreds of chains. What is that room for? What is the purpose of that room?
It's just to look cool. Yeah, I don't. It's just to like look cool for like a fight sequence. And then chains move.
It did look fucking cool.
It is so cool, man. Chains are rad.
So cool,
I love
bro.
chains. Yeah, so like they're fighting in the chain room right here. There's like a quick shot of he hits a wire and then like the ground catches on fire for some reason. So he runs out of there. Another just pointless set piece that just like, oh, let's put some fire here. And then the chain room, they're fighting in there and he hits a button and the chain takes the sword up. So for some reason these chains like lift things up, right?
Yes.
Just only one at a time, and then it takes Duncan as well, pulls Duncan up. And then we get a really confusing, in the middle of this fight scene, a confusing lore moment. Did you understand this at all?
Is this the murder?
Yeah, it's the old guy.
Absolutely no idea what that was about.
And I think it's the last time you ever see any of the Watchers or anything. So I think there's the Watchers, who's the guy that gets shot, and he's one of the Watchers.
Okay.
Maybe even the last one. Maybe that was like the end of the Watchers, they're trying to say. I don't know. But the old guy is the one that's friends with Methos, who's the oldest immortal. and he's the one who kills that guy. And yeah, it's just a quick scene of him like breaking into an office and killing him, and he says "Merry Christmas" when he kills him. And that's it.
Rewound that like 2 times because I was like, where did this? Like, was there a transition into this scene? Like, what? Yeah, okay. Thank you for explaining that. I don't know why they put that. Why did they leave that in? Cut that shit out of the movie.
I mean, I think it's if you watch the show, you know what's going on. Here's what I'm inferring from it, and I don't know. And hopefully, maybe we can get some answers from Reddit. But
yeah,
I think that I'm going to say that the Watchers are as kind of a shady organization. Like they're trying to do good, but maybe Mythos and these people don't like them interfering. So he goes and kills the Watcher guy to like maybe put an end to the Sanctuary and the Watchers and whatever they're doing. And that's all I got. Actually, that didn't make any sense. But he says Merry Christmas, and it's just very confusing to anyone who probably hasn't seen the entire series of the show.
Yes.
Like you and me. But I was going to ask you.
This seems like it's a real like inside baseball. You have to really,
yes,
you really have to like the Watchmen or the.
But
the
even
Highlander
then, I feel like they didn't flesh it out at all. No, like they were barely in it. As far as like the overall movie, it didn't make any sense. And he just says Merry Christmas. So I was going to have people come up with a good holiday-based one-liner for a kill.
Great. Can't wait. Love it, love it, love it. Was it even Christmas?
That I was like, wait, is this a Christmas movie all of a sudden? Are we doing Die Hard?
Yeah, are we adding this to Die Hard and Lethal Weapon? These are
Merry
the 3
Christmas.
great Christmas movies. Yeah.
Motherfucker. So and then it cuts back to the fight. You never see any of those people again, I don't think.
No. Super out of place scene.
He says
also they're in an office that's looking out onto the warehouse because they're like watching this fight happening from this office.
Oh, they are.
But
okay.
I think because they both had sniper rifles.
Did they?
The Watcher guy did for sure.
I kind of maybe I missed some of that.
Anyway, confusing.
So, yeah, they're trying to like not interfere. Maybe he was killing him because he's like, hey, we're not supposed to interfere with these immortal games or whatever. I don't know.
It really felt to me like this movie, I was actually pretty happy with how well thought out a lot of the plotting was and how I thought the Kel character, the way that they conceived that was good. And like some of those other parts were kind of strong. But this final fight scene just felt so thrown together and so underbaked to me.
Yeah.
It's a weird way to end this movie. Because I thought the plotting was actually one of the strengths of this movie up until this final fight scene.
Yeah, I mean, they did a good job of tying it all together and trying to make it make sense in the world. But yeah, it was. Yeah. I mean, well, we'll get to. So what? How does this all end?
So this is so after this weird kill scene in the middle of the fight, it cuts away to have this kill scene, and then it cuts back, and this is where Duncan talks in Connor's voice, and his face shapeshifts into Connor's face.
And he says again,
Connor's like a life force is inside Duncan because of the way he died. And Kel has the opportunity to kill Duncan, but decides he's going to leave him alive because he was just so excited about doing this like vengeance torture thing that he's going to do it to Duncan instead. And Duncan summons some power, even though he's been stabbed like 20 times and he's like barely able to stand. He summons enough strength to come up, fight him off, and then do this ridiculous flip over the top of his head, which I guess confuses him so much that he doesn't lift his sword, and Duncan decapitates and kills Mr. Kel. Kills
Kel. Yeah. And he says "call ya" afterwards, which was a callback earlier. I think Kel says that to him. Just a really kind of a lame one-liner. Call ya.
I think it's still better than Merry Christmas.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, he says, "What's the matter? Don't you want to be inside me again?" Like right before this, or Connor says it. through Duncan.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of a underwhelming, half-baked final fight scene. What happens after that? There's a little bit of tying
there's a little
tying
bit of
it up.
kind of tail out at the end of this. So Duncan, we see him burying Connor in Scotland, right next to his wife from like his first love, and then we see a scene with Duncan talking to Kate, and that might be in Sanctuary or something because Kate is dead.
He's like at a fair or something, like a carnival.
I thought so too. Yeah.
It's a public place or like at a mall or some kind of thing. He's just kind of living his life, or he goes to where she used to work, or the Faith model agency, or whatever the hell that was. And she's there. She's alive, right? Or was it a ghost? Or was it his memory?
I thought it was like a memory thing. Like she was dead, but he was still communicating with her through the sanctuary or something. I didn't really understand it, but she definitely died earlier. And so maybe I didn't really understand how she came back or what.
But I think she said something like Kel made his choice or something. Like maybe he didn't actually kill her, because they never actually showed her head being chopped off. They just showed her like necklace falling to the ground or something.
Okay.
So maybe he just cut off her necklace.
Do you know what I just noticed, Tanner?
What?
Kate starts with a K. What if she's the bad guy in the next
one? Oh my god! What is with this? There's no way that is all coincidence, right? All the K names.
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
So let's see. I want to actually shift back to that final fight. There's like the big, epic, quickening at the end, where it's like the biggest quickening of all time, with the shot going up to the sky, and then there's this like face that comes out of the sky and says something. Did you notice that?
I did not see that.
It's like a big giant face in the clouds, and it just says like "Game Over" or something like that. The subtitles, I rewound it like 3 or 4 times trying to understand what the face said, and I think it said the game is over maybe, but the subtitles didn't say anything. But it definitely mutters something.
That was the final thing.
Right.
But isn't Mythos still alive?
I think so, and this girl is alive potentially.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Is she even a fighter? Are there immortals out there that aren't considered the fighting immortals? You know what I mean? Is she just like a kind of a kind immortal? I don't even know. Anyway.
So you're trying to say there's like hunter immortals and gatherer immortals, and she might be in the second group.
Yeah, could be.
Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of questions at the end about Faith being alive here, or Kate. She's now Kate again. Maybe we should ask people, is Kate dead? I want to find out what people have to say.
I would love to know what I'm supposed to take away from the ending of this movie.
Please tell me.
Yeah. Tell me tell me what to think, you guys. Fill me in.
And then we get some Bonnie Portmore. Once again, the old Irish, Scottish, whatever hymn playing.
Boy, do we.
Old folk song, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And that's Highlander Endgame.
Woo woo.
Hey, Chris, let me ask you.
Yeah, buddy.
How did you like this movie? Do you have beef? Do you have any MVPs? Tell me.
Man, so I think up until the final, I have a lot of thoughts about this. I liked this movie. I thought, like I said before, I think the narrative, like the way that they put this story together, made it a lot more fun to watch for me than the last one. There were some parts that I didn't really understand because I didn't watch enough of the TV show that made it kind of confusing. But as you mentioned before, like I kept kind of wishing I was watching Highlander 2 again, because that one is so crazy. This one's just kind of boring in comparison, even though the plot actually works and like a competent human being put together the story here. Compared to whoever the hell made Highlander 2.
But like it just, I don't know. It feels a little. I don't know. What did you think?
Yeah, it was drab and poorly made, poorly acted. It's definitely a shitty movie. In all those ways, but I do think it's faithful to the TV show and the original, and has a decent overarching plot of what should happen in the story, and killing off Connor in a cool way that kind of makes sense, and leaving it to Adrian Paul, who's mediocre actor, but Chris Lambert is not a good actor at all.
Oh, not at all. Yeah,
he works in the first one. He looks so funny sometimes. He's got like this weird Neanderthal stare, you know. But I'd say the MVPs of this movie would just be general plot points, and really nothing else. There wasn't too much craziness or generally exciting things. Some funny lines maybe that were funny in a bad movie way.
Do you think if we make Dame Dash our MVP for this movie, he'll give us a record contract with Rockefeller Records?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Then Dame Dash is my MVP, hands down.
Perfect. We're gonna have to get him on the show. What's his name? Dame Dash?
Damon Dash.
Damon Dash.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess my beef with the movie is just that it's kind of drab and boring, poorly edited, poorly acted. It just looks so dead, and but I wasn't like, I did find myself maybe like looking at the time more in this movie than any of the other ones, like kind of like it was almost over yet, you know.
Yeah. I also think the guy who played Kel was pretty boring, and after I think Mario Van Peebles in the last one, at least he was like fun and crazy, and the guy who did
Iron was good too.
Again, the voice for Mr. Krabs, who was the Kurgan, was a wonderful, like
so
silly, campy bad guy in the first one, and this guy is just a guy, like just a guy.
Yeah, he sucks, and his lines are poorly, just so bad. The writing, the dialogue is bad, right? Maybe they had a good story points, but the writing is terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this movie came out in 2000. Like I said, it made $15 million worldwide on a budget of $25 million. So another failure of a movie.
Have any of these movies made money? I feel like it's just a stinker after stinker, and they keep going back, hoping they'll get it right.
I did mention at the beginning, like maybe this wasn't the best cash cow. It is a milked franchise, but
without a doubt,
not as much of a cash cow as you'd hope.
There's not a lot of milk coming out of those udders. It's just like
there's milk, but it's like soured. Yeah. It says here, also known as Highlander 4: The Search for Connor. I don't think that was ever what it was called. But I remember when this came out, I think I was really into, I had an Entertainment Weekly subscription, and I'd read all the reviews, and I remembered that it got like a D grade, and I think that influenced my thought of Highlander forever. Because I remember this came out and it's like, oh, it's some sequel to some old crappy movie, and this was panned, and that like stuck with me that's why I never went back and watched Highlander 1 until like a couple years ago. Yeah, and I had to look up that old review.
Did you find it?
A D+. Yeah. It was like I was really into reviews and box office at the time. Yeah. So
love that.
I think it's just funny that it like
it's funny how really those things like stick in your memory. Yeah, like wormed its way in and like totally affected how you thought about this whole thing.
It won the Stinker Award for worst remake or sequel. The Stinkers Bad Movie Awards. I didn't even know it was a thing.
Is that different than the Razzies?
Yeah,
there's more than one bad movie award.
The Stinkers. Never heard of it. It looks like maybe it was only. It didn't last very long as a thing.
Well, congrats on their win.
Yeah, exactly. There's one win and one nomination.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's Highlander Endgame. Any other final thoughts on this movie that you want to touch on?
Man, I don't know.
Do you think it
I
needs more sequels?
no. Well, I don't think these people should be responsible for making them. I think if anything, it needs a reboot. Like Connor is dead, so I feel like it's a natural time if you're going to make another one of these to kind of move on to something else. I don't know. Do you think it needs more sequels?
Oh, not really. Yeah, I mean, not like the direction it's going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there is one. So starring Adrian Paul.
Hell yeah.
So that one didn't come out in theaters though, and it's probably going to be really good. If I had to guess.
Obviously.
But I really, oh god, I just
movies are
play.
sometimes direct to video because they want to get that movie to the consumers even quicker because it's so good.
Hey, I'm gonna pause right here. Let's see the timestamp. Well, I don't know the timestamp, but we're gonna take a break and watch this trailer and come right back.
God, who keeps greenlighting these movies, dude?
Oh, what do you mean?
Like none of these are making money. The last two have sucked, and they.
I know.
Oh man. Anyway, I don't know.
It's too bad.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 was also bad, but I did enjoy it.
Without a doubt.
But yeah, let's see. We just watched the trailer. We talked about it earlier. There being scenes that were filmed and cut into the trailer only for the trailer. And what did we see here? There's jumping through the portal.
There's a weird crystal ball at one point.
Just a ball that kind of breaks
stops
apart.
a sword. Yeah.
Stops the sword midair with some sorcery magic. Just insane that they would.
Oh, and him getting cut in half. Kel gets cut in half and forms into two people. Just ridiculous. Yeah.
They also give away that one of the Highlanders is going to die. Basically, show you that.
Yeah, they should
allude to it. Anyway, I thought that'd be fun to watch that. Hopefully, that translates well. Yeah, let's see. What do we got? Anything? We finished up, right? No more sequels. This movie sucks. They should have stopped, right? That's kind of where we ended.
Absolutely.
Well, that brings me to the next part of this podcast. Kind of a brief thing at the end today, but the milk of the pod, the cow milk, of course, where we talk about other IP, parts of this IP and parts of the franchise where they've milked it. Chris, do you have anything you want to talk about the show?
Thank you for turning me on to the show, and I think it was good to have watched that pilot before this. It is kind of funny. Like I feel like the pilot had a bigger budget in some ways than this movie did.
I know.
Because it has like 2 Queen songs in the pilot. It has Christopher Lambert and this dude. I don't know. It was honestly better than the last 2 movies we've watched. It was a pretty entertaining show. Like I think if I, I'm enjoying these movies, but I don't think this is my thing. I don't think I'm going to go watch this stuff. But I think if I was really connecting with kind of the immortal Highlander stuff, I think I would really dig that show, and I would dig into it a little bit more.
Yeah, it's such a fun. It is such a fun concept. Like the first movie really just nailed it, though. I mean,
yeah.
I'm looking forward to when they do a reboot with Henry Cavill, if that ends up happening. I think that could be.
Oh, is that in? Oh, that would be rad. Yeah.
Yeah, that's they're in talks to. There's rumors about that for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I think he wants to do it. Glad you watched that. It definitely shows, definitely explains a little bit more about what we just watched.
Yes.
Although not enough. So my portion here is I didn't do a whole lot. I did want to talk about the Bonnie Portmore song though. So Bonnie
I can't wait to
Portmore,
hear about it.
it's like a traditional Irish folk song, although this Scottish version, I think, is what they're using in this one. And it laments the demise of Ireland's old oak forests. So Bonnie, it translates to like pretty or healthy, pleasant in Gaelic. And Portmore is like a place. So it's pretty Portmore. Portmore Lake, basically, or pond or something. And there was some old tree that in the song, it's like the Portmore ornament tree. It says in the lyrics, because I had the subs on. I was like, what the heck is an ornament tree? And it was just like this nice tree that like stood forever near this castle. And one day a windstorm knocked it down in like 1760. And they wrote an old song about it. And this song's been in 2 or 3 of these movies now, maybe all of them even. A version of this song. Lorena McKennitt made it a version of it, who was like a popular 90s folk pop singer, right? And yeah, I just thought that was sort of interesting. I was curious about where this Bonnie Portmore thing came from. But it's an old tree.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if that's interesting or not, but I thought it was. And somebody even mentioned it.
I can see some drone footage of someone swinging a sword near that giant tree. And
Here it is. Here's
it takes me there.
Portmore Loch.
Okay.
There it is. It's just a generic little lake.
I will say the picture Tanner just showed me had no big trees in it. So R.I.P. Bill Portmore.
Oh, that's why they wrote the song. The trees are all gone.
These are gone, baby.
You shine where you stand. Oh, Bonnie Portmore, you shine where you stand. I'm sorry to see such a woeful destruction of your ornament tree. Oh, Bonnie Portmore. Yeah. So there's the history behind that song. The only other piece of info that I have was I played and looked at the other Highlander games, but there was one that was created, like half created, and there was a trailer and everything in like 2010. There was going to be like an actual like decent Xbox 360 third-person adventure game. There was even a trailer that I watched, and they had like the cover art for the game already. So I don't know how far it got into development, but it looked kind of cool. I think it could work really well. Like maybe even an MMO or some kind of like massive fighting game, or like Fortnite style play last person alive wins, would be really cool. So like maybe like 100 people drop into a map and they all gotta like find each other and fight to the death, and the last one alive wins. And every time you kill somebody, you get like stronger and stronger. So if you're really good, you'd be just like super powerful. But I think that'd be a super cool game. And I don't think this was that, but I just thought it was crazy that they actually had a trailer for it and everything. And then got canceled.
Huh. Yeah, that is surprising.
But wouldn't that be a fun game? I don't know.
I agree. My only concern with that is like I don't know if Highlander has a big enough following to really sell a big game. But maybe I'm wrong.
Well, maybe when the new one, if the new one comes out,
that would be a fun game. It reminds me a little bit of like Hunger Games. You know what I mean? Like just dropping a bunch of people in and last one standing. Yeah. I think it could be. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
Kind of it'd be a fun game if they did it right.
Yeah, it would be cool. They have a little like sword battles with other actual players and inherit their. You just get like a little bit stronger every time you kill somebody, and I don't know.
I think the thing that would make that game even better is if you had to wait in line at Universal Studios before you got to fight each time.
And it had Bonnie Portmore playing the entire time.
Perfect. That was a little callback to our Jaws episodes.
Yes.
So if you don't know
check out those videos of me playing the worst game I've ever played. Universal Studios, the game. But that's my milk of the week there.
I love it. Thank you for sharing. That's great.
Absolutely. And that's the episode, I believe. Any final thoughts? Final thoughts.
I was really enjoying this series. I'm kind of ready for it to be over. We got one more. So, follow along with our survey. We'll have some funny jokes, make some jokes with us, and we'll be back next week to wrap up the Highlander movie series. Called
Highlander: The Source.
Ooh.
So maybe it'll take us into more lore territory. Yeah, and I think this survey is going to be good. The worse the movies are, sometimes the surveys are better.
So more to draw on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the bonus that we're going to have for watching shitty movies. And then we're going to do some Halloween stuff after that. Figuring out what we're going to do for that. We'll let you know.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.